Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. How's it going? My name is Angela. Are my glasses clean today? I think so. I'm a front-end developer and a software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm relatively on time today. It's only 10:35. Yay. How's it going? Mood improved compared to yesterday. Although I think we had a really good day yesterday. I think we ended in a good place. We didn't get as far with the project as I thought we would, but I think everything that we did yesterday was really important. So there's that. And in general, I'm just feeling much better today. Well, first of all, when I finished the stream yesterday, I took Heidi out for a walk, and the humidity was practically gone. The temperature had cooled. It was still warm out, but the temperature had definitely cooled considerably, and it was a nice breezy day. Last night, it got down into like the 60s almost. Yeah, it was like 68, 69. And I opened up the windows last night and turned off the air conditioning. So it was like 75 in the apartment when I woke up this morning. But still, I slept comfortably. And it's just so nice sometimes to have the windows open. This is the time of year where I'm just looking forward to fall, that cool, crisp, dry air. I don't give a shit about Halloween or Thanksgiving. Well, I like Thanksgiving. It's a good food holiday, right? It's the first of the food holidays, right? So I do enjoy Thanksgiving, but what I really love is just the cool, crisp air. I don't care about pumpkins or Halloween or lattes or any of that bullshit. I just want the cool, crisp, cozy air where you can decide to wear your jacket outside or you cannot decide to wear your jacket outside. You can decide whatever it is that you want to do. I just can't wait. It's so beautiful, fall. And now that it's August, we're almost there. We're just so close, so close. Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing I've learned about being in a really shitty mood, which I was yesterday. which is just feel the feelings. It's okay. Feel the feelings and also control your emotions. Easier said than done for me. My big mouth has gotten me into trouble a lot, and it's probably, I mean, if I'm really going to like look inward and be reflective on my life, it's probably because I have not done a good job of controlling my emotions throughout my professional career. And that makes a difference in development. It doesn't, I've worked with several very, very talented developers who were not, by their own admission, were not where they wanted to be in their career. And it was because of their attitude. Now, that's the part that I'm adding. I can think of one in particular, a software engineer that I worked with at St. Thomas, who is no longer there, who was very talented and very, very difficult to work with. Rude, impatient, arrogant, entitled, kind of a jerk. Also turned out to be my friend for a while. I found a way to get along, but it was not easy. And what this person told me over and over and over again was that they were just not where they felt like they should be in their career based on their skills as a developer. And inwardly, in my mind, I was like, yeah, buddy, it's because you literally have the worst attitude of anybody I've ever met. You're a constant victim. You treat your teammates like garbage. You're incredibly difficult to work with. You cause a lot of people a lot of stress. Now, I don't think I've been that bad, but I think that again, I know that I've had a very difficult time controlling my emotions throughout my adult life, and that was well before I was ever a developer. I didn't become a developer until I was in my late 30s, almost 40 years old. And I had a couple of career changes before that. I mean, being a developer is like my third or fourth career change. I've lost count at this point. But I think that there were many opportunities that I didn't get because I didn't know how to control my emotions. So, my point is, one of the things, this is just like general life advice, not even developer advice. Learn to control your emotions. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be pissed off at the world like I sometimes am, or to feel like you're posting into a void, streaming into a void. Sometimes that's what it feels like, even though there are people in the chat, there are people here talking to me, there are people here supporting me every single day. I do get really frustrated that I'm not growing as much as I should be when I see other people growing really quickly. And I'm just like, I don't know, it feels unfair sometimes. But then I'm just like, well, you have to just keep showing up and doing the work. So sometimes it's okay. Feel the feelings, control your emotions, get a good night's sleep, get up and start again. This is my advice. You didn't ask, but here it is. So, I don't know. This is the other thing that I've learned about being online or posting. YouTube is not social media, but you're definitely posting sometimes kind of like it is social media. And it's hard to find a balance between like sharing your personality, revealing your personality, letting people get to know you, but also not discussing deeply personal, intimate parts of my life, which is important. I want people to feel like they can get to know me. I want people to feel like I am friendly and approachable and like there's someone they enjoy watching, but I also want to have like very clear boundaries about what it is that I share or post or discuss. And it takes a really long time to figure that out. So, I don't know, man. I feel like I I worry sometimes that I don't have much of a personality, that I'm boring. I don't know. And it just really takes time to like figure out how to do stuff like this. And we're coming up now on 2 years. On August 11th, it's going to be my 2 year anniversary. Excuse me, I have allergies and a runny nose. Um, And it's literally taken me 2 years to figure out how to feel like I have an actual personality. It's it's hard. It's really hard. But I am figuring it out and I do enjoy it. And yeah, I wish this channel was growing a little bit faster. But then I think about the people who are here all the time helping cheer me on and support me. And I'm just like, how there's literally nothing to feel bad about. How could you feel bad when people show up every single day to like hang out in the chat? I don't know. I guess I'm just having feelings today, mixed emotions, feelings, and I felt like sharing some of that with you. So do with it what you want. And there are people here in the chat, so let's say good morning. I'm in a much better mood than I was yesterday. So, and yeah, I'm also trying to have an actual personality, which is not always easy. So, so there's that. Okay, Go Elmo is here. Malik Robinson, our mod in the chat. Stamp Sack is here. Stamp Sack. I hope I'm saying that right. Hi Angela, my name is Stamp from Thailand. I have a job in software engineering. Nice to meet you. Well, nice to meet you too. I think you were here yesterday too. Did you change your username? Did you have a different username yesterday? I think this is the same person from yesterday. Welcome. I'm happy to have you. I'm glad that you found us. Monique Robinson is also here. Monique and Malik are the mods in the chat. Folks, they are not related. It's just a coincidence that a couple of Robinsons found me from different parts of the country, and they're both here to support me on the regular. And I am so appreciative for that. And Malik says, good work on the shorts content. Yes. Okay, I would love to, can I talk about the shorts journey? So this has so much to do with the AI workflow that I've discovered here in the last month or so, right? When did we do, I think we're going on 2 months now because I figured out how to use AI and Codex to transcribe my live streams and then have Codex read the transcript, and it's helping me write titles for the replay, write good descriptions based on exactly what it is that we did during the live stream, and then also write chapter markers, which are really important. And I've tried a couple times over the last 2 years to really be good about doing that, and it takes an enormous amount of time. So I let it go. I let it slide. Well, now Codex is doing it for me, and it's doing a really great job. Another thing that I'm having it do is read the transcripts and help me identify shorts. Because here's the thing about shorts on YouTube, especially if you're a streamer, that one of the most important things that you can do for discovery is clipping your streams. Sometimes I do a little monologue, soliloquy, if you will, a coherent thought that lasts approximately 8 to 10 minutes. That's perfect to clip for a standalone long video on YouTube, the OG video, right? Shorts, though, are anywheres from, well, they can be anywheres from a few seconds up to about 3 minutes, but I think 80 to 90 seconds is kind of like the max. Sometimes I get into like 2.5 minute territory if I think it's an important enough point. I try to go for 20 to 90 seconds, and having Codex identify those moments and give me the exact timestamp where I can just open up DaVinci Resolve, which is what I use to edit videos. I can open up DaVinci Resolve, go right to that timestamp, and in one stream, I'm consistently getting 3 good shorts. Yesterday, I had 2, so I had to film like a yapper, which is something that I'm trying to do more for Reels, and I ended up getting 2 good ones yesterday afternoon, which was really fun. Yeah, and so it's been about a week now, a little over a week now, where I've consistently every single day taken a transcript, even though, so if I'm not current, didn't do any streams during this last week, I'm going through the back catalog and looking at those transcripts, grabbing moments and posting every single day. I'm trying to post a minimum of 3 shorts every single day because, like I said, if you're a streamer, clipping shorts from your streams is one of the most important things that you can do for discovery. So it's super fun. A week ago, it was taking me a couple of hours. Now it's taking me like anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. I'm hoping with another week here, I can get that down to about an hour. It goes very quickly. I learned how to do, I've learned how to use Mac Whisper to generate captions. I found a really good workflow in DaVinci Resolve for styling the captions, burning them into the video, and I don't know, it's just been a fun week to sort of let this process evolve, and I have really enjoyed it. So, um, Stamp says, which language does Angela mostly work with, backend or front end? So, okay, Stamp wants me to get back to development related conversations. No, I hear you, Stamp. I'm here. I'm here. I am mostly a front end developer. I have spent the last 13 years of my career primarily in web development and working in marketing departments. So I've done a lot of agency work. I've done a lot of client work. I freelanced for a long time. I still technically freelance. And that's all about marketing. It's about helping people have a presence online for lead generation and to bring in new clients. So, and that's what I did at the University of St. Thomas. Front end development, the front facing websites at St. Thomas, that was all fell under the marketing department. But of course, we had a very close relationship with ITS, which is ITS stands for what? Information Technology Services Systems, something like that. Basically, there was a team in our ITS department called Web App, the Enterprise App something, Enterprise App Development, something like that. Basically, they were the folks that built all of our backend APIs, and they did a lot of the apps that students used for like the libraries and food services. And I don't know, just universities have just like a ton of technology. So I had a really close relationship with them, but I'm primarily front end, working anything that's front facing. So a lot of web development. I do have a software engineering degree, which I never planned to get. I already had a master's degree. In 2013, I graduated from Metro State University here in St. Paul with a Master of Science in Technical Communication, so technical writing. But that program was very digital. That was where I really learned about accessibility and document design. It was just really about writing for the web and thinking about digital content. It was a really cool program. It was one of the best higher education experiences that I've ever had going through that program. I had no intention of ever going back to school and getting another degree. Then I got the job at St. Thomas because I just needed a job, not because I wanted to work at a university. I literally just needed a job. And one of their benefits is free tuition, and they have a really terrific software engineering program. So I ended up going back and getting another master's degree in software engineering. One of the most challenging experiences of my life. It was really hard. It was very difficult for me, but I did get through it. I graduated. I got the degree. I got the papers. I got the papers. Yeah, so there's that. So I do have a good understanding of backend. I understand how the pieces fit together. It can be a bit challenging for me sometimes to put all the pieces together, which is why I am incredibly grateful for AI and agentic workflows. And I do feel like I'm balancing my deep desire to be extremely controlling and understand every line of code with just enjoying the process of building things that I would never build if agentic workflows didn't exist. I think it's time to stop saying that we're vibe coding. I think yesterday's live stream demonstrates why this is not in any way, shape, or form vibe coding. We are deep into requirements gathering and decision making. We're now on day 3 and we are still gathering requirements and doing audits and writing API contracts. We are just now today going to write this importer script. That is not vibe coding, my friends. That is an agentic workflow. I think my takeaway from all of this is it's all about the requirements. Your prompts and the result and what you get is all going to come from the requirements and how much time you spend doing what? System design? Is that what we call it? And listen, you don't know what you don't know. You gotta just jump in and start doing it and figuring it out. And that's exactly what we're doing. And it is fun. It's frustrating. Sometimes it pisses me off, but it is fun. Malik says 36 comments in the last 28 days is good interactions. Yeah, Malik is my comment moderator. So I had this conversation with ChatGPT. I'm just going to give ChatGPT credit for this. I did not think of this analogy on my own. ChatGPT said, when I was whining about the comments hurting my feelings, said, if you opened a coffee shop and every single day somebody threw garbage on your front step, would you tell yourself, oh, I guess I have to learn to love garbage now? No, you would hire somebody to clean up the garbage. Malik Robinson has kindly offered to look at the comments for me and to silently and quietly block and delete the people who are being mean and then just leave everything else for me to look at. And I am so grateful for that because I did have a moment a couple months ago where I was like, I really love being a little more opinionated and sharing my opinion online, but the comments almost broke me. I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore if this is what's going to happen. It's not even that. I understand that if you put yourself out there and you actually start to get views, those things just happen. It's not a performance review. I do not have to read the comments. I do not have to listen to what people are saying in the comments. I am under no obligation to do anything that anybody tells me to do in a comment. Comments are an artifact of posting online, plain and simple. You can do whatever you want with the comments. They measure engagement, so they are important, but it's not a performance review. You are not required to read them or take the advice or do anything that anybody tells you to do in a comment. Being human, though, they can be really difficult to read. So if you are lucky enough to have a Malik Robinson in your life, like I have in my life, and you decide to start posting online and you decide to start getting, you get views and you get comments, ask for help. YouTube makes it incredibly easy to include people on your channel that can help you do some of those things. And I'm incredibly grateful. So there's that. All right. Well, speaking of yapping, that's like 20 minutes of talking. Do me a favor, would you, before we get started? Would you be so kind as to like this video, subscribe if you're new here? Mm, coffee. Yeah, it helps the algorithm, helps get this pushed out to more people who might be interested in this type of thing, helps the channel grow. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, I don't have anything ready to go here. Give me a moment. We'll pull up our files. We'll get started. I think we're gonna run our first prompt today. I don't know, man. Um, just going with the flow. Some days I just think to myself, I just work here. What do you want from me? Not you, like just existential you. You know what I mean? Okay. Um, Here we are. Here's the Jane Austen project. Okay. Oh, and let's pull up our conversation with ChatGPT. Okay. And Stamp says, because I like software engineering, I've loved this field ever since I studied basic computer science, and I dream of becoming Bill Gates in the future. Well, if you become the next Bill Gates, keep me in mind. Call me. Call me. Let me know if you have any openings at Microsoft V2, okay? I'm rooting for you. I believe in you. Just remember me, okay? Remember me. Okay, what are we doing next? Oh, and I guess we need codecs. Yeah. Okay. What is this? What's up with this blue dot? Is this just like the last thing that I did? It's not the last thing that I did because I did a transcript yesterday, so I don't know. I just don't, I'm not sure what it wants me to do. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Okay, so this is where we did the format analysis. Here's our jobs. I think so. The first prompt was analyzing the book source. I think ChatGPT said that the next thing is now doing the importer, right? Stamp says, okay, let's see if Microsoft would hire me for a software position. Good luck. Yeah, but if you're going to be the next Bill Gates, then you'll build the next Microsoft, right? And Osloy is here. Welcome, Osloy. Okay. So I don't remember what the next. So I think the final conversation was keep book start, keep book end to signify where the book starts and ends because Gutenberg added a lot of stuff before and after the actual test. Our audit determined that we do not have to insert chapter headings. We wrote a Python script that correctly interpreted the chapter headings and created IDs, right? Then we need to let the importer detect the headings and assign chapter IDs during import. Treat the text files as immutable source material. Okay, it's day 2. I feel like this is important so it knows that, it's been like 24 hours. It's day 2. What's next? Here's my second prompt left over from the last project. What are we doing next? And then let's show it. Projects, Jane Austen, jobs, backend, 2. Let's let it think. Okay, one moment. And Mohammed is in the chat and says, thank you for your wonderful effort. Well, thank you, Mohammed. Thanks for being here. Thank you for recognizing my effort. I appreciate you. Okay. Next is still database design, but this prompt needs to be rewritten for the Jane Austen project before you run it. Your old prompt is built around the transcripts, the transcript chunks, one search use case. This project needs the schema to support both the e-reader and the search filter tool, so the design job is broader. The next prompt should ask Codex to design tables for at least books, chapters, paragraphs, sentences, characters, character aliases, locations, location aliases, book character relationships, book location relationships, FTS5 sentence search. It should also force decisions around 1 based ordinals, not 0, stable sentence IDs, chapter and paragraph reading order, whether counts are stored or derived, how character location alias matching works, whether the FTS table indexes sentence text only or duplicates related metadata, how the e-reader retrieves a whole chapter efficiently, how a search result returns enough structure for the front end to place it in the reader. I would make prompt 2 this. Let's copy this in. Oops. Okay, this is a multi-step project. Complete only the job described below. Do not anticipate later jobs or begin implementing the importer, API, or front end. When a design decision cannot be resolved from the requirements, an approved source analysis, document it instead of making an assumption. Prompt 2, design the database. Objective: design the SQLite schema for the Jane Austen database. The schema must support both an e-reader that retrieves books, chapters, paragraphs, and sentences in source order, a search and filter tool that searches sentence chunks by keyword or exact phrase and optionally filters by book, character, and location. Design only. Do not create or populate the database. Read the requirements. Read the book format analysis. Okay, so that's why we do the analysis, so it has something to read. Read the audit chapter headings, chapter audit summary. Nice. The 6 approved book metadata JSON files. Do not inspect or use the deferred version 2 books. It wouldn't even know where these are, but ChatGPT doesn't know where I put them. So the approved books are Emma, Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, Persuasion, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility. Scope: design the normalized SQLite schema, including, where appropriate, books, chapters, paragraphs, sentences, characters, aliases, locations, book character relationships, book location relationships, SQLite FTS5 sentence search, indexes, foreign keys, uniqueness constraints, ordinal and reading order fields. Document why each table exists. Required design support. E-reader. The schema must support retrieving all books, retrieving one book and its chapter list. This is so good. Retrieving one chapter in reading order, preserving paragraph order within a chapter, preserving sentence order within a paragraph, chapter, and book, stable identifiers for books, chapters, paragraphs, and sentences. Use one based content ordinals unless the approved source analysis establishes a reason not to. Search. The schema must support required keyword search, required exact phrase search, optional book filter, optional character filter, optional location filter. One result per matching sentence. Returning the matching sentence with its parent book, chapter, paragraph, and ordinals. Yes, because once you find that results and you click on it, you're going to go to the e-reader part of the app that will function exactly like an e-reader, right? Character and location filters use canonical names and approved aliases when evaluating sentence text. Drop-down selections alone do not return search values. This is so good that we did this yesterday, as frustrating as it was to make all of those decisions and have all of those conversations. Metadata. The schema must support book title, publication. Oh, shit. I forgot to get the publication year. I was supposed to do that. Okay, we're going to have to do that. But it's only for 6 books. So I forgot to do that. We're going to do that. Author, Gutenberg ID, chapter, paragraph, and sentence counts, characters, aliases, locations, location type, optional metadata notes, relative canonical text path, design questions to resolve, document and justify whether book, chapter, and sentence counts are stored, derived, or both, whether string source IDs are primary keys or separate internal integer keys are used, how paragraph and sentence stable identifiers are generated, whether ordinals are stored at book, chapter, and paragraph scope, whether chapter headings are stored as reader content or chapter metadata, how the FTS5 table relates to the canonical sentences table, whether FTS5 uses external content mode, which fields are indexed, how exact phrase search is executed, how character and location aliases are expanded into search constraints, how ambiguous aliases are excluded or represented in version 1, how the database supports efficient chapter retrieval and ordered rendering, how deletes and importer rebuilds preserve referential integrity. I hope, though, that we're not doing this. Although, I don't know. Don't worry about that, Angela. Just keep moving. Do not invent sentence level character or location tagging. The source metadata associates characters and locations with books, while filtering evaluates canonical names and approved aliases against sentence text. Deliverables. Create a database design markdown file and schema.sql. The database design markdown must include design goals, entity relationship overview, table by table design, primary keys and stable identifiers, foreign keys and delete behavior, ordinal and reading order strategy, FTS5 design, character and location filter strategy, index strategy, example e-reader queries, example search queries, import and atomic rebuild considerations, unresolved decisions, if any. SQL, so the schema.sql must contain the proposed schema only. It must not insert data. Constraints. Do not build or populate the database. Do not write the importer. Do not implement API routes. Do not use embeddings, vectors, or AI search. Do not include the 3 deferred version 2 works. Do not modify source text or metadata files. It's done when the schema can be reviewed before implementation and fully supports ordered e-reader retrieval, sentence level STS5 search, book character and location filtering, stable relationships from a search result back to its book, chapter, paragraph, and sentence. Okay. Let's tell ChatGPT that we need to, okay. Great. I read the prompt and it all looks good. I forgot to add the publication dates. I'll do it now. Remind me where to add them. I think in the metadata.json file of each book, right? Metadata. Okay, so we want a publication year. 1815? Okay, let's see. Emma, publication year. 1815. Okay, this will be quick. Quick, quick, quick. And then Mansfield Park. Let's do this. Publication year of Jane Austen's books. Okay, Sense and Sensibility is 1811. And Pride and Prejudice, 1813. Mansfield Park, 1814. I feel like ChatGPT probably could have given me this information too. Am I right? Emma, 1815. We got that. Northanger Abbey, 1817. It's okay. Wouldn't be me if I didn't do everything the hard way at least a dozen times. Persuasion, also 1817. Okay. Here's the other thing that I would like to do. Since we updated this prompt, let's go ahead and commit. So we are starting fresh. We're doing everything fresh. We have a clean place to roll back to if we need to. Prompt 2 is ready. Pub dates added. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's typical for me, isn't it? Okay, so let's go ahead, I guess, and start with prompt 2. Where is our, here, this is yesterday's prompt. So now we want prompt 2, which is, copy this path. We don't really have an output folder. Do we need this? I think this is enough, right? Actually, I think this is enough. Because I think this tells it all the other files that it needs to read. Yeah, let's do this. Okay. Let's see what happens. Oh, and we have this bumped up to high and fast. So. Okay. It didn't do anything though. Are you going to follow the instructions in? Yes, I took your previous message too literally as read only. I'll now complete the job exactly as written. Read the required inputs. Inspect only the 6 approved metadata files, the books. Okay. One required input is missing at the specified path. Docs book format analysis. Oh, job. Okay, because of I'll use that exact file. Okay, good. It found it. So. Okay. Once again, I have nothing planned in between while we wait. So, please. Jazz hands. Jazz hands. Jazz hands. Right? Jazz hands. That's a good movie. I like that movie. I like that movie. Okay. Okay. The 6 metadata files now include publication year and use locations, resolving 2 issues from the earlier analysis. They also confirm that entity source IDs are only book scoped and some IDs repeat across books. So the schema will preserve book scope instead of inventing global character location identity. I'm curious to see what our usage is once this is finished, um, running the higher model. Maybe I should have saved my monologue slash soliloquy for in between prompts, right? All right. Here is our SQLite schema. I wouldn't have a clue if this is right or wrong. I will admit this makes me feel like, should I be learning SQL? I mean, I took an SQL course, like I took SQL when I was in school. I didn't not like it. Um, should I be trying harder to learn some of these things? Okay, let's see what we got here. We're gonna read it all because um I got to know what they're building, and I can't know what is being built if I don't read some of this stuff. So we're buckle in. Um, okay. This is the SQLite design goals. This design supports the 6 approved books only. Okay. Provides deterministic one-based reading order. Maybe we don't have to read this line for line. Schema stores the canonical raw text on books. The required source analysis path, entity relationship overview. Characters and locations are intentionally book scoped. The approved metadata does not define global identity, and source IDs repeat across books. For example, Mr. Morris is used by 2 different fictional characters, while location IDs such as London recur in several books. It's a good point. A non-null book ID is therefore the book character or book location relationship. A many-to-many junction would imply unsupported cross-book identity and is not used in version 1. Okay. Table by table design. Books, 1 row per approved book. It stores the source, string ID and slug, display metadata, publication year, Gutenberg ID, derived repository relative text path, exact canonical source file text, validated metadata counts, and optional notes. Chapters, okay, paragraphs, sentences, characters. So basically everything that we said it needed to reconcile. Primary keys and stable identifiers, okay. Examples are Emma chapter 1, Emma paragraph 1, and Emma sentence 1. The importer must construct and validate these values. The schema does not parse string components. Foreign keys and delete behavior. Ordinal and reading order strategy. All content ordinals are one-based as required by prompt 2. Chapters, ordinal within book. Paragraphs, ordinal within chapter and ordinal in book. Sentence, ordinal in paragraph, ordinal in chapter, ordinal in book. Yep. Uniqueness constraints prevent 2 sibling rows from occupying the same reading position. Import validation must additionally require contiguous sentences beginning at 1. because SQL check and unique constraints cannot prohibit gaps across rows. Reader order is never inferred from internal integer primary keys. It is always expressed with content ordinals. Okay. FTS5 design. External content mode is preferred because sentences remains the canonical relational row, while FTS stores its search index without requiring a second authoritative text API. The shared integer row ID gives a direct stable join. Okay. Lots of technical stuff. The API query layer must never pass unrestricted user text as raw FTS grammar. It should construct an FTS expression from validated tokens. Keyword search. Combine escaped keyword tokens using the approved and/or policy. Exact phrase search. Double any embedded quote characters. Then wrap the entire phrase in FTS double quotes. Character location filtering. Add an and group containing quoted canonical name and approved alias phrases joined by or. I love this. For example, an exact phrase plus character filter can become not handsome enough and Fitzwilliam Darcy or Mr. Darcy or Darcy. The FTS triggers cover normal data changes. After any bulk load that bypasses, okay, that's technical. Character and location filter strategy. Filters do not create sentence entity junction tables. This follows the instructions not to invent sentence level tagging. For a selected character, verify the character belongs to the selected book. If a book filter is present, load characters, canonical name, and characters, aliases, alias, rows, where is ambiguous equals 0. Okay. Index strategy, primary keys and unique constraints. Example e-reader queries. Okay. I trust you. I trust you. Import and atomic rebuild considerations. Fair. Unresolved decision. Oh, there's still unresolved decisions here. Okay. Canonical analysis location. Prompt to names. Book format analysis, but the available prior deliverable. The project should either move or approve that document or update the prompts path. Okay, let's update that prompts path now. Even though we're done with this prompt, I will update it. Docs. I'm just going to put my initials here. Parser, I'm going to add my comments right here, and then we will show this to ChatGPT. Parser contract, body boundaries, heading mapping details, paragraph line joining, and exact sentence tokenization remain importer decisions identified by the source analysis. The chapter audit resolves heading counts for version 1, but not every normalization rule. Okay. Alias collision semantics. Explicitly marked ambiguous aliases are excluded here. Several ordinary approved aliases and some canonical name aliases, canonical name/alias pairs also collide within a book. The design treats ordinary aliases as approved and searchable, but product owners should confirm whether collision detection should instead suppress them. I mean, that's my first thought. Because if there's like the example of Mr. Morris, there could be multiple Mr. Morris characters in more than one book. Those are probably not primary characters. Okay, match semantics. FTS token phrases are case-insensitive token sequences, not byte-for-byte substrings. Confirm whether punctuation-sensitive or case-sensitive literal containment is required for entity filters. I don't know. Keyword policy. Decide whether multi-token keyword input means all tokens and or any token or exact phrase behavior is already defined by FTS quoting. Okay, so this I feel like I should be able to answer. Do we want it to be and or? Because I think what I learned from the last project is that the difference between keyword and exact phrase is that all of the keywords exist, but they can be in any order in the result. But I think they all need to exist. So I'm just going to say and with my initials. So cross addition stability. Ordinal derived paragraph and sentence stable IDs are deterministic for one normalized source version, but change after earlier content insertion/deletion. Stronger persistence would require approved immutable source anchors. Don't know. Raw source normalization. Books.sourceText is designed to store the exact UTF-8 file contents. Confirm whether preserving CRLF bytes exactly is necessary. SQLite text preserves characters, not a separate byte level encoding contract. Okay, so for the things that I don't know, I'm going to say, I don't know. An initial. I don't know. And initial, because I want ChatGPT to know that I read these things. Because I'm being a responsible agentic, not vibe coder, workflow developer. Okay. So let's show this to ChatGPT along with the, I guess it's, what is it? It's this and hang on. Yeah, I said done. So what is this? Where is this? It's in the docs folder. I added my thoughts and initials after each unresolved item. Most of the remaining items aren't architectural anymore, they're product decisions. Here's my review of your notes. Canonical analysis location done. Agreed. The report references an old path because it was written before you finalized the project structure. Marking this done is the right call. Yeah, and also because I did it, right? Parser contract. I know, I'm just saying that I don't know, not that I think it should remain unresolved. We've already answered most of it. Okay, so hang on. I don't know literally means I'm not sure. I couldn't tell based on the comment alone. If it's resolved, great. I'm not telling you it should remain unresolved. Yes, I'm not sure how to answer this. Please help me decide. Okay, parser contract, resolve it. Most of this now belongs to the importer prompt, not the schema. The only remaining decision is the sentence tokenizer. Okay. Alias collision semantics, leave unresolved for now. We can make a product decision after we have the importer and can inspect the data. Match semantics, resolve it. Use normal FTS5 case insensitive matching for version 1. Keyword policy, resolve it as and. Yes. Cross addition stability, resolve it. Stable IDs are guaranteed for your canonical source files. If the canonical source changes, rebuilding new IDs is acceptable. Raw source normalization, resolve it. Normalize line endings during import. Don't preserve CRLF, LF differences. So after our discussion, I'd keep only one item genuinely unresolved, the alias collision semantics. Everything else now has a decision. That's actually a nice outcome because it means the schema review did its job. It surfaced a handful of questions, and we've answered nearly all of them before writing the importer. That's exactly the kind of review process you were aiming for. Okay, so I think what's our next thing here? We need this. So the next thing is, well, the prompts that I copied over from the last project are scaffold the project and the importer, but I have a feeling these are going to be combined. So let's just ask what's next. Three and four. So these are prompts 3 and 4 copied from my last project. How do you want to proceed? How do you want to proceed? I'd proceed sequentially again. Next, adapt and run prompt 3. Prompt 3 is mostly reusable because scaffolding does not depend on unresolved importer details. Okay, I have to digress for a moment to just capture this thought that I'm having, which is that the prompts themselves, the instructions inside the prompts themselves aren't exactly the thing that we copy from project to project. It's understanding each prompt's goal. So the goal of the first prompt is always going to be to, well, the goal of the project is always first to write the requirements. What is it that you actually expect to see when this thing is done? What is it that what functionality do you expect to have produced, right? The first prompt is always going to be to do like an audit or an analysis. The second prompt, I'm inferring now based on the second time we've done this. The second prompt is going to be designing the database. The third prompt is going to be scaffold the project. And it's saying here, adapt and run prompt 3. Prompt 3 is mostly reusable because scaffolding does not depend on unresolved importer details. So I think when we're done with this, what we really need to do is sit down and make a list of not exactly what the prompts themselves are, but the hierarchy of prompts, the order in which you go. This is just occurring to me. Hold, please. Okay. So prompt 3 is mostly reusable because scaffolding does not depend on unresolved importer details. It just needs to be updated for this project's actual structure and existing files you already created. So I would use this. All right. So we don't need 4 yet. Okay, so let's read this. Oh, Heidi, there's something happening outside. Okay, this is a multi-step project. Complete only the job described below. Do not anticipate later jobs or begin implementing the importer API routes or front-end behavior. If a decision is required before implementation, document it rather than making an assumption. Prompt 3 scaffold objective. Create the Jane Austen database project structure and initialize an empty SQLite database using the approved schema. Read the requirements, the docs database design, and the SQL schema. Scope, create or complete the repository structure. So the structure is that there's a config, there's data, docs, scripts, server, client, tests. Oh, and that's it. Okay. So we're literally just like setting up the folder. Got it. Got it. Sometimes it's literal. Sometimes it's very literal. So let's okay. Read scaffold project and follow its instructions. Okay. Did I not get the full? Yeah. Oh, you know what happened? Stop. Hang on. Oops. Let me fix the prompt. So sometimes these little backticks for creating like code blocks, they get cut off. So we need this full thing here. Okay. I gotta fix this. So we're gonna start here. And then we're gonna stop here. Now, okay, please continue. Prompt 3 has all of the info. This is the nice thing about Codex is that you can, it'll tell you basically if you made a mistake or if it was incomplete, and you can stop it and say, okay, give me a minute to like fix this and then we'll continue. That is a really nice feature. A really nice feature. Okay. So then this says, then review the scaffold before prompt 4. I would not finalize prompt 4 yet. The old prompt 4 is transcript specific, and the Jane Austen importer has substantially more responsibilities. Got it. More importantly, prompt 4 should reference the actual file names, npm scripts, initial data, database initialization code, and module structure created by prompt 3. Writing it now risks telling Codex to create paths or patterns that conflict with the scaffold it actually produces. So the process should be run prompt 3, review the scaffold and test results, review any schema scaffold issues, write prompt 4 against the real project structure, build the importer. Okay, well, let's see what we got. And I think we should also commit. Oh my God, did I put this in the wrong place? I put this in the wrong place. I put this in 2. Oh my gosh, hang on. I put this in the wrong place too. Oh my God, Angela. Oh my God. Why did I do that? How did it know what to do? It built it based on what was going on in here. Okay, hang on. I made a mistake. I updated prompt 2 with the prompt 3 instructions. I fixed the mistake. Can you please reread? Let's get the correct path. Okay, why? Stop. And follow its instructions. Okay. The corrected prompt adds the full Node Express scaffold configuration, initialization, utility, placeholder, client, tests, and documentation. I'll use ESM, Express, Better SQLite 3, and Node's built-in test runner so the dependency set stays limited to runtime needs. You know what else we have to ask for is browser refresh and NodeMon. We have to ask for that. So, okay. Stay tuned. Codex is working now. Some things we need to include when it builds the, what are we calling it? The initial front end. Everything needs to be available. Any CSS or JS file, any image folder, etc. needs to be available to the front end. I also need NodeMon and browser refresh. We have to ask for this when it's built. I think those are the two things, right? Just an FYI. So the requirements should cover two separate things. Static front-end availability. Express must serve the complete client directory, not only index.html. That includes CSS, JavaScript modules, images, fonts, or icons you add later and nested. Okay, but here's the thing. Express is only for the API. It's not the app itself. Hang on. Express is only for the API, not the entire app, right? Or actually, do we need Express for the templating? Or wait, do we need Express for the e-reader templating? I think we do. Yeah, this is actually a good architectural question. And I think the answer is yes, Express should serve the app, not just the API. Here's why. The browser has to get index.html, CSS, JavaScript modules, images, fonts, any other static assets. And we can still write vanilla code within an Express app, right? Express just serves as like the architecture for how we serve everything up. It's not a framework like Angular or Vue or React. But it's going to do the templating that we need for the e-reader part of this. Something has to serve those files. Since you're already using Express for the API, it makes sense for Express to also serve the static front end. Think of it like this: browser, Express, serves static files, index.html, CSS, JavaScript, images, and then the API. The e-reader itself doesn't need server-side templating. In fact, I wouldn't use Express templates like EJS, Pug, or Handlebars. The flow I envision is the browser requests the root, Express serves index.html, your vanilla JavaScript starts, JavaScript calls API books, API books Emma, API chapters, API search. JavaScript renders the UI. That's almost exactly the architecture you built for the YouTube transcript database. So Express has two jobs: serve static files, provide the API. The front end is still a client-side application. This also means you don't need a second web server. One node, okay, but wait a second. Index.html serves the filter and the results. What serves the e-reader? What serves the e-reader? Isn't it a template? This is where there are two perfectly valid architectures, and I think we should choose intentionally. Option 1, client-side rendering. The e-reader is not a server template. Express serves index, CSS, JS, then JavaScript does the fetch. The API returns the JSON. Your JavaScript creates the chapter. This is essentially what your YouTube transcript database does. Yeah, if this was the results, okay. Option 2, server-side templates. Express uses something like EJS pug handlebars, a route. Okay, but I think option 1 is the better fit because of everything you've already built. Remember your YouTube database? Yeah, I remember it. The API returns JSON. The front end renders the transcript lists, the search results, the context, the highlighted excerpts. The Jane Austen database is the same pattern. The only difference is that instead of rendering search results, sometimes you're rendering an entire chapter. But it has to, is the endpoint going to reflect the chapter that you're on? Okay, but wait. Okay. So when a chapter is rendered, what's the URL? If this is an e-reader, the URL should reflect the point in the reader. In the reader. So do we just do that? I think that's better with routes and a template. For an e-reader, the chapter should have a real addressable URL such as books Emma chapter or read Emma chapter. That URL should load the correct book and chapter correctly, survive refresh, be shareable and bookmarkable, support browser forward navigation, provide a stable target for search results. You do not necessarily need server-side templating to get that, though. A good architecture would be get, read, bookslug chapter ID. Express serves the same e-reader HTML shell for that route. Then the client-side JavaScript reads bookslug chapter ID from the URL, calls the API, renders the chapter. So read Emma chapter 1 can still return, and the front end loads. This gives you clean routes without tying chapter rendering to EJS or another template engine. Where templates would make sense, server-side templates would mean Express does both, fetches the chapter from SQLite, renders all of the paragraph and sentence HTML before sending the response. That is valid, but it couples the render markup to the back end. I think the cleaner fit for your project is Express routes, stable reader URLs, the Express API, chapter JSON, vanilla JS, reader rendering. Search results could link directly to or use a fragment. If the front end loads the chapter and highlights or scrolls to that sentence. So I agree with the core point. The reader needs routes and meaningful URLs. I just would not assume that means the chapter HTML must be server rendered with a template engine. Okay. I'm actually not suggesting that. I did not consider client side versus server side. I just want a clean structure that is distinct from the e-reader and the filter slash results. I want different HTML pages to mark up and style. I don't want JavaScript rendering entire pages. Yes, now I understand what you want. You want separate, real HTML documents for the distinct app experiences. So index.html is going to be the search filter results. Reader.html. I actually think we should design a completely unique home page. You do not want one empty shell where JavaScript constructs both entire pages. JavaScript can still fetch the API data, populate search results, populate chapter content, update filters, highlight a sentence, handle reader navigation, but the major page structure should already exist in HTML for you to mark up and style. For example, yeah. And I don't think that I want my URLs to go any deeper than the chapter. Unless you, okay, so I'm going to articulate this point next. Let's keep going. Express can map the clean reader route to reader.html, and the reader JavaScript can read the route parameters and fetch that chapter. That gives you clean, meaningful URLs, separate HTML files, distinct page layouts, shared CSS JavaScript assets where useful, no requirement for EJS or server-side templates, no JavaScript built page shell. So the architecture becomes Express serves static front-end files, maps clean page routes to specific HTML files, serves JSON API routes, and then the search page is index.html plus search-specific JavaScript. The reader page is reader.html, reader-specific JavaScript. That sounds much closer to your actual front-end workflow. We should explicitly require this when we write the front-end scaffold job. I agree, because I can still style and organize and get everything done the way I want, but I do want Codex to do this part for me. Okay. And where are we on time? So we're clearly not going to get this far today, but this gives me something to work on over the next week to think about the structure that I really want. So my assignment over the next few days is to decide my URL structure and what pages or even how many pages I want. Yeah. Before we build the front end, decide the information architecture, not the styling. You need to answer, what are the distinct experiences? Which ones deserve their own HTML page? What should the URL say about the user's current location? What should be bookmarkable or shareable? What state belongs in the URL versus only in JavaScript? A likely starting point is that the root would be the search filter page. Maybe, I don't know, I haven't decided. Read books chapter ID, or books optional book index, books book slug optional book overview chapter list. You may decide the search page and book index are the same page, or that the reader needs only one HTML document with route-driven content. You may also want a dedicated results page instead of rendering results beneath the form. The main thing is to choose the structure before we ask Codex to scaffold the front end, because that decision affects the HTML files, the express page routes, navigation, browser history, direct links from search results, shared versus page-specific CSS and JavaScript. You do not need to decide every component yet. You only need a rough page map and URL map. Good. I'm glad we had this part of this conversation. This does give me something specific to think about this week before next weekend. So I'm glad that we thought of this now. So, okay, so let's see what the results here are. So, prompt 3 is complete. Created the Node Express SQLite scaffold with package.json and a lock file, database initialization utility, Express server, SQLite connection helper, 6 book configuration, minimal HTML shell, scaffold tests, scaffold documentation, git ignore and generated empty data database.sqlite, installed only Express and better SQLite. The database is empty, foreign key checks pass, and the generated file is ignored by git. I don't think the generated file should be ignored by git, because how is it going to be deployed? This is going to be deployed, so I don't think it should be ignored by git, but so we'll ask about that. Dependencies installed successfully with 0 reported vulnerability. Oh, probably because it's ignored by git, but I upload it directly to the server, right? Is that how this works with these database files? You don't track it because it's an artifact of the stuff. You don't track the database directly. And then I just upload this database.sqlite directly to my server, kind of like a .env file, right? Is that how that works? Oh, and the other thing that we have to ask for, because this is going to be deployed and it's going to be public, and this is not something that I am used to, I don't generally worry about this stuff at all, but we need to make sure that that API has a CORS policy. I think we need to ask about something called rate limiting, which I'm not even 100% sure what that is, but if I'm using the context clues, we basically need to make sure that other people can't use the API and drain all the resources of my server, right? So we need to, we'll ask these questions next. Okay, let's keep going. Dependencies installed successfully, database initialization passed, placeholder server started successfully, test 2 passed, 0 failed, no import or API route search styling or e-reader behavior was implemented. Okay, let's copy this and we'll put it in here. But let's also, hang on. Here's the results of prompt 3. Is the database.sqlite ignored by git because I add it to my server myself. Is that a way to keep it private? Also, this will be a deployed public website. I think we'll need things like a course policy, rate limiting, not sure exactly what this is, and other security-minded things. Okay, let's see what he says. He, she, I don't know. Okay, database.SQLite is ignored because it is a generated runtime artifact, not because Git is a privacy mechanism. You will usually generate or upload the production database separately on the server. Keeping it out of Git avoids committing a binary file that changes after imports, large, noisy Git diffs, local test data, SQLite journal WAL files, potentially private data in future projects. For this Jane Austen database, though the contents are public domain books and metadata, ignoring it is still the right engineering choice, but it does not meaningfully make the data secret. Also, Git ignore only prevents new untracked files from being committed. It does not protect a file that is publicly reachable on your server. The real privacy security boundary is server file system, data SQLite, readable by the node process, public web root client served to browsers. Okay, so this boundary, the server, got it. So this is okay, let me read this again. Git ignore only prevents new untracked files from being committed. It does not protect a file that is publicly reachable on your server. The real privacy security boundary is the data directory and the client directory. I did not know that. The database file must stay outside the static front-end directory, and Express must never expose data through express.static. Wow, this is so good to know. How production deployment should work. A sensible deployment flow is GitHub deploys application code, server installs dependencies, importer builds database.SQLite, Express reads the database locally. Or you can build the database locally and securely copy it to the server. I prefer building it on the server from the versioned source files eventually, because the importer becomes the reproducible deployment process. Okay, so it runs on the server. So it does, so we could still have a GitHub action that deploys everything. The database itself is an artifact because the importer runs on the server and creates the database on the server. Got it. You should also back up the database or be confident it can always be recreated from the canonical text and metadata. Well, the importer would make us confident in that, right? But we could back it up locally, right? CORS. You may not need CORS at all. CORS matters when browser JavaScript on one origin calls an API on another origin. For example, the front end, janeaustendatabase.com, API, api.janeaustendatabase.com. If Express serves the pages and the API from the same origin, janeaustendatabase.com, right? Because I wouldn't deploy this to a subdomain. It would just call from within the internally. The requests are same origin. So no permissive CORS configuration is required. CORS is a browser mechanism that tells other origins when they may read your API responses. For your current architecture, my recommendation is do not add CORS globally by default. Keep the API same origin. Add a narrow allow list later only if another legitimate front end needs API access. This would be undesirable, because it broadly permits browser access from any origin when you may not need cross-origin access at all. Rate limiting. Rate limiting caps how many requests a client can make during a time window. Once the API is exceeded, once the limit is exceeded, the API typically returns HTTP 429 too many requests. It helps prevent careless scraping, runaway scripts, and basic resource abuse. Your site is read-only, so the risk is lower than an app with login, payments, or rights. But search can still be comparatively expensive and your API will be public. I would eventually apply rate limiting to the API directory, especially API search, rather than necessarily limiting static CSS images or reader pages. For example, conceptually, reader static pages, normal web traffic, metadata endpoints, moderate limit, search endpoint, stricter limit. The exact numbers should be chosen after ordinary front-end behavior is known. You do not want normal chapter navigation or typing behavior to trigger the limiter accidentally. So basically, give it 90 days and see how things go. If the app is behind Nginx, Cloudflare, or another proxy, Express must also be configured correctly for trusted proxy handling. Otherwise, all visitors may appear to share the proxy's IP address. I don't use Cloudflare. We absolutely could. I build so many static websites, I just don't think it's necessary. And I'm not secretive about the IP addresses because I'll just destroy the droplet and make a new one if I need to. But we could use Cloudflare. I don't know. Security items we should add before deployment. The production hardening job should include Helmet for sensible security-related HTTP headers, HTTPS at the reverse proxy or hosting layer. Okay, so I always add HTTPS, I think, at the hosting layer, right? That's part of our deployment process. Input validation and length limits for all query parameters. Safe construction of FTS expressions rather than passing raw user syntax through. Rate limiting on public API endpoints. Request body limits, even if version 1 mostly uses GET requests. Generic production error responses without stack traces or SQL details. Let me read this again. Generic production error responses without stack traces or SQL details. Okay. Node environment production. Disable the X powered by fingerprint. Dependency auditing and updates. Run node as a non-root user. Wait, the production hardening job should include run node as a non-root user. So this is part of our my normal deployment process that I disable root, right? And we always have Let's Encrypt and HTTPS. File permissions that allow the application user, but not the public web server directory to read, write SQLite. Logging for unexpected errors and repeated rejected requests. Okay. I mean, this all sounds good to me. If you're watching this and you have experience with this, you tell me, is ChatGPT giving me good information here? I sometimes don't know when it's hallucinating or, quite frankly, blowing smoke up my ass. So if this looks, I would love to know from people who are watching this who have experience with this, am I getting good information? It sounds good. So, okay, so SQLite is reasonable here. This is a strong SQLite use case. Mostly read-only public data, one application server, relatively small corpus, rebuild-based imports, no user accounts or high-volume concurrent writes. SQLite is an embedded serverless database, so Express reads the file directly rather than connecting to a separate database service. The main deployment constraint is that the live SQLite file must be on persistent local storage. It should not live on an ephemeral file system that disappears whenever the app restarts or deploys. Okay, let me read this again. The main deployment constraint is that the live SQLite file must be on persistent local storage. It should not live on an ephemeral file system that disappears whenever the app restarts or deploys. So this makes me think of like Heroku, right? Where you have to wake it up. No, we're going to deploy it to DigitalOcean. So we'll answer some of these questions here. Okay. What prompt 3 accomplished? The scaffold result sounds correct for its assigned scope. Generated database ignored. Only foundational dependencies installed. Database initialized. Foreign key checks passed. Tests passed. No premature importer API front-end implementation. I would not send codecs back to modify prompt 3 for production security. We should add a dedicated production hardening and deployment prompt after the API and page routes exist because rate limits, CSP, static file policy proxy handling, and cores depend on the final routes and deployment architecture. Okay, sounds good. A couple things I want to address. This will be deployed to a DigitalOcean droplet node, of course. I'm not planning to use Cloudflare, but I can if you think I should. I generally build small static sites, and I'm not worried about people seeing my IPs. It's just never been a problem. Oops. It's just never been a problem. So the app should always be running, right? I also always use let's encrypt for HTTPS. What was the other thing? I think this and I always create a pseudo user. And I always disable root access and will create a, well, not a pseudo user, but a user just to run the, what is it here? Yeah, run node as a non-root user. To run node as a non-root user. That's no problem. What else? Was there anything else here I wanted to address? I hope ChatGPT is keeping track of all this. Okay. Well, you know, worst case scenario, we do have this documented. We can come back and read this again if we need to, right? These are just some things to make note of. Okay, let's see what it says. So the production ad should run continuously. NodeMon is only for local development. On the droplet, Node should run under a production process manager that starts it automatically when the server boots, restarts it if the process crashes, keeps logs available, runs it as your dedicated non-root application user. For your setup, I'd use this stack. Why Nginx? Well, we're gonna use like whatever pre-configured droplet is available. We can take a look though. Nginx handles the public connection, HTTPS, static caching where appropriate, and reverse proxies application requests to Node. Express recommends using a reverse proxy and ensuring the application automatically restarts in production. DigitalOcean's current Node image also pairs Node with Nginx and PM2. Great. You know what? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but fine. Okay. Both are reasonable. Okay, blah 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 blah. Not worried about this. Your normal Let's Encrypt setup is exactly right. Point the domain. Yep, I don't need help with that. I do not think you need Cloudflare at launch. I don't think we need Cloudflare either. So, I mean, I get that it's not just about masking your IP. Cloudflare does important stuff and you can do a ton of stuff with Cloudflare, add to the headers, blah, blah, blah. But I just don't think that I need it right now. Yeah. Notes to preserve for the deployment prompt. DigitalOcean, Ubuntu Droplets, Nginx reverse proxy, Node Express bound only to localhost, system D managed node process, dedicated non-root application user, root SSH login disabled, Let's Encrypt certbot HTTPS with renewal, SQLite on persistent local disk, no Cloudflare initially, same origin front end and API, production security and rate limiting added before launch. One important distinction, disabling root SSH access and running Node as a non-root user are separate controls, and you're planning both, which is correct. Yeah, I know. The SQLite file should be owned by the application user and stored someplace like, okay. Nginx should never serve that directory directly. Only Express accesses it through the database connection. Great. We can save this all for deployment, which we are not even close to. But glad we at least thought about some of this. Okay, Angela, it's not a real human being. Okay, and it's congratulating me on making architectural decisions much earlier. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to come back on Friday. I think we're just about done here. We're going to review the scaffold. If anything looks odd, we'll write prompt 4, which is the actual importer. Prompt 4 will be the biggest prompt of the project because it's where all of the design work finally turns into a working database. After the importer, I actually think the project starts getting more fun once you can type npm run import and watch 6 novels populate the database. Everything after that, the API, the search interface, and the reader becomes much more tangible. Yeah, I agree. So, okay, we're going to come back. Um, we're going to come back on Friday at noon, and we're going to do the importer prompt 4. We got through 2 prompts today. And this, I think this is good because I have more decisions that I need to make um, before we even get closer to that front end where it kind of builds out that initial front end for us. I have to think about my URL structures. I want to think about if I need templates. So I'm glad we had this conversation about client side versus server side. So ChatGPT actually understands what it is that I'm asking for. I know it might feel a little bit tedious, but I'm really glad that we are reading all of the prompts, trying really hard to understand what's going on, asking questions. Even if it feels like we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, that's okay because I want to ask questions as I think of them. And I think that this conversation with ChatGPT does preserve all of our thoughts. So if we have to come back, if I have to come back and reread what's going on here, I can. Yeah. And I just feel like I'm being a little more intentional with this project than I was with the last project, which, it's a process, right? It's a process. It's no different than anything else. You sit down and you start building something, and then you take what you learned in that project and you carry it into the next project, right? So Rex Ryder is here. Hello. No flex zone. What are we working on? A Jane Austen books database full stack application using AI to do the back end portion. Wow, and wow, it's complex. I didn't think that this was going to be more complex than the YouTube transcript database, but here we are. Hey, do me a favor. Would you be so kind as to like this video, subscribe if you're new here? It helps the algorithm, helps get this pushed out to more people who might be interested in this type of thing. We are learning how to use AI and how to use these agentic workflows. I am primarily a front-end developer. If you're new here, mostly on this channel, I do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but we are building a couple of full stack apps here to learn how to do this, to learn how, this is the new development. This is the new development. There's really no excuse to not know how to do this anymore. And if you're like me, where you've spent most of your career on the front end in marketing, web development, this is an opportunity now to build full stack apps and to write requirements for a back end and a database, which is a new thing for me. And it's pretty cool. And we're learning how to do it together. So I think that's it for today. Thank you to everybody who came to hang out in the chat. Thank you. Malik Robinson and Monique Robinson, they were the mods in the chat. HBKF is also here, says hello. No Flex Zone is asking, so what roadmap will you suggest to a fresher who wants to become a front-end dev? Well, I would not suggest a roadmap per se. I know that there are websites out there that show roadmaps, and I think that they are incredibly confusing. They have a lot of information. I'm going to give you the answer that I give everybody, which is for front-end development specifically, start with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are the 3 things that the browser renders natively. You don't need Node, you don't need a package manager, you don't need a library, you don't need a framework. Just start learning HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. Write code, refresh browser, see your result. That's the best way to get started with front-end development, in my opinion. Not everybody agrees, but here's what I want for you. I want you to get a feedback loop of write code, refresh browser, see the thing that you just built. Once you develop an understanding of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then start to learn a library and a framework. Learn React, use Tailwind if you enjoy it, things like that. Learn TypeScript. I just don't want people to worry about those things in the beginning because I think that I think it kind of muddies the waters a little bit. And I think that Dev YouTube is trying to tell us that in order to be a front-end developer, you need to know React and Tailwind, and that's just not really that's just not really true. I mean, those are the things that I think you need to know in order to get a job, but that's not what you need to know in order to be a front-end developer. I'm going to argue or present the case for you that you still need to know some basics. So, No Flex Zone says, by the way, MERN developer this side currently learning agentic AI things and stuff. Yeah, you and me both. I've been doing front end for 13 years. At my last job, we used Vue.js. I'm very marketing, web development, accessibility, search engine optimization oriented type of front end developer. So certainly I have experience with frameworks, libraries, working with APIs, things like that. And over the last month or so, we have sort of pivoted here temporarily into agentic workflows and learning how to use them. And I got to tell you, I like it. I enjoy it. I'm having a lot of fun. I am ready to get back to building a vanilla landing page. I am ready for that. And we're still gonna have fun on the Jane Austen database building out a vanilla front end, even though it's an Express app. But I think this is really important. The job of a developer is changing, and these type of workflows, we have to know how to do this stuff. I think as a front-end developer, there's going to be an expectation that I understand how to build these backends now. And I think this is preparing me for this. So start beginning. This is the beginning stages of preparing me how to do this. So, okay, everybody. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will be back on Friday at noon, and we're going to continue with the Jane Austen database. Bye-bye.